in this video we will look into how can we debug SharePoint errors. Now when we talk about errors which comes from ASP.NET, it's very easy to figure out. You can always go and make your custom errors on, and you can know that what's happening. You can enable tracing, etc. Now when it comes to SharePoint, right, SharePoint is a black box for us, right, because it has its own content database, it has its own code which is not revealed to us, etc., etc. So the way SharePoint displays the error is very different from the way ASP.NET displays the error. Okay, so in this video we'll try to understand that how we can understand SharePoint errors, and then how we can figure out the root problem of the errors. So what we'll first do is we'll first try to mimic an error. We'll see that how error of a SharePoint actually looks like, and then we'll try to understand the fundamentals of how can we trace and debug a SharePoint error. So let's first try to create a SharePoint error. Let's try to mimic a SharePoint error, and then we'll try to understand that how we can understand the SharePoint error. So what I'll do is, in order to mimic the SharePoint error, I'm going to go and create a new site. Now this SharePoint which is installed on my laptop currently, it doesn't have the enterprise search configured. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create a site of an enterprise search center. Okay, so I'm going to click on this enterprise search center, and I'm going to say, okay, search me. Okay, now this feature is not enabled currently on my PC, so it should give me an error. So let me just click on create for now. So you can see the error there. It is clearly stating that the SharePoint server publishing infrastructure feature must be activated. Then only you can go and create a site which is of a type enterprise search center. Now this error is also pretty decent. It at least tells me that what the error is. But then you would always get, most of the time you would get error something like this, which just says that an unexpected error has occurred, and this is the correlation ID, and this is the date time. So it's very difficult to understand now from this message that what exactly has happened, and how do we actually go and debug this error out. Now in this scenario, your nearest and dearest friend is this correlation ID. The correlation ID is the only person who can help you to guide what the next steps are to identify the errors. So what exactly is a correlation ID? Correlation ID is nothing but it's a unique GUID. You can see that it's a unique number. It's a unique global unique identifier, a GUID, which is created for every request you send to SharePoint. So now we know that there is an error, and we know that for which request this error is, right? So when an end user will get such kind of error set, what he has to do is he has to note down this unique number, this unique GUID, and send it to the administrator, and the administrator can then look into the log files and see that what exactly happened, and then probably he can take up the necessary steps to solve the problem. So let's again go back to our error which we were trying to mimic. So you can see that it has a correlation ID and a simple text here saying that what the error is. Now this text is good, it tells me exactly what the problem is, but we would like to know more about the error. And also in these kind of scenarios where there is absolutely no text, we would like to know how to go and find it, right? Now whatever activity you do on SharePoint, whatever, you either send a request or you do whatever, or any kind of request you do on the SharePoint server, all gets logged into the log file in this directory, in C/program files/common files/Microsoft shared/web server extensions/14/logs. So must be, you can pause the video and you can see this directory. Now if you go inside the directory, you can see there are two kinds of files. One file which just has the date time, and the other file which has a usage extension, a .usage extension. So this tells you exactly that how much request has come to SharePoint and how much is the usage, while the first file actually has the error. So let me just go and double click on this file. So I'm going to take the latest file. So now because this error has just recently occurred, so definitely I need to take the nearest date and time file, which is this one, 10:13 p.m. So I'm going to go and double click on this file. So that's my file opened. Now we need to know the correlation ID. So let's go back to our site. So it is E9E9E2, right? So I'm going to say edit find E9E9E2, find next. So you can see that now there's my correlation ID, and it is telling something over here. I can see that there are multiple entries of this correlation ID, so I can know more detail about what's happening here with this error, right? So with this, you can, by looking at the log files, you can know that what exactly has happened. Okay, but now if you see, right, reading this log file is pretty it's not easy, right? It's not easy to figure out what's happening. Okay, so if we can have some kind of a grid where we can go and view all this log file, and we can go and search this correlation ID, that would be great. Now thanks God, the world is having still good peoples and good developers. So here's a nice tool here called as the ULS viewer. It's a free tool, and by using this free tool, we can go and monitor these log files. So what this tool does is it actually sits on this top of this directory and keeps polling this directory, and then whenever there is an error, or whenever there is any kind of request, or whenever there is any kind of activity on the SharePoint, it displays it on a grid. So this helps us to minimize a lot of our clicks, going to the directory, going to the log file, going and edit and doing a find, the way I did it. So using this tool, we can really minimize our work. So we can go to this portal here, archive.msdn.microsoft.com/ulsviewer, and you can always go and click on the downloads and download this. Now once you download the tool, on the desktop you can see icon something like this, ULS viewer. So let me click on this, let me say run. So there's my program running. So I'm going to say file, let's click on file, and I'm going to say open from file. Now you can see that you can either open from ULS. Okay, so if you say open ULS, it actually goes to this log file, but because currently I know which file it is, so I'm going to just go and load that file. So I'm going to say file, open from file, this one, right? Now let's go over here and search this ID E9 E9 E2. So for that, click on edit, click on modify filters, correlation E9 E9. Okay, great. So now you can see that now this is much better as compared to the notepad, right? And you can see that exactly what's happening here, and clearly you can see that because the publishing feature failed, right, the activation feature failed, that's why there is an error. Okay, so must be, if we can go and enable this feature, right, must be it must be this creation of this site is possible. So by using this ULS viewer, it actually helps us to go and search what kind of activity has happened with the correlation ID, and it also gives a detailed message which helps you to know more detail or more in detail about the error. So in short, whenever you get any kind of errors like this in SharePoint, you just go and take this correlation ID, okay, download this nice ULS viewer. If you are brave enough, you can always go and figure it out from the notepad, but if not, you can always go and take this ULS viewer, say go file, open from ULS, and point it to this log file and say okay. Now one more good thing about the ULS viewer is that it's real time. You can see that currently what I did is I said open from ULS, and you can see that whatever requests are happening to my SharePoint site, whatever activity is happening on my SharePoint site, everything is getting displayed here. Why? Because it is continuously polling this log file, and it is showing me that what kind of activity is happening. So one is you can always go back and see a grid view of the old errors, but the other one is that if you want to really see on real time what's happening, then the best way is take this ULS viewer, point towards your log file. So anything what gets logged into your log file will be displayed here on this grid. Also, other than the log files, SharePoint also has its own logging database called as the WSS_login. You can see on your screen. So even from here you can get the error what it is. So you can see that for usage there are different tables here. You can see it's numbered. It's actually for every day there is one number. So like for 30 days probably there are 30 numbers here. So our database, whenever there are errors, it actually gets logged into this one, the search_query errors. Okay, now it's very difficult to go and search from these databases. So what you can do is you can use the ready-made views over here. So you can see that there is a search query errors here. So you can go and just say select it, and you can fire queries. Okay, if you see this error, if you see this view, you can see that it's nothing but it's an inner join of all the what you call query errors table partition. Okay, so rather than going and querying each table, what you can do is you can use these views over here. So one way is that you can go and always see from the log files, and if you want you can also go and see from SQL Server by going to the WSS_logging database. Now to configure where these log files have to be, let's go to our central admin here. So let me click on home central admin administrator. So you can see that there is a monitoring link over here. So click on this monitoring link. You can see that there is something called as configure diagnostic logging. So click on this. So over here you can see that configure usage and data collection. I'm sorry, not the diagnostic. Configure usage and health data collection. So over here you can see that okay, what kind of events you are interested in, where do you want to put your log files, what is the maximum size, and also you can see that if you want to log into SQL Server, what you have to do. So by using this health and data collection link, you can always go and configure where your log files and on which database actually it should go and log the activities. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed this video. So in this video what we did is we mimicked a small error in SharePoint, then we talked about the fundamentals of correlation ID, and then we saw that how we can use the correlation ID to zero down on the errors. So we also looked into log files, and we also saw a separate database which SQL Server has given us, the WSS_logging. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. In the next video we are going to talk about the SharePoint object model. Now this whole video series is specifically meant for developers. So one of the things developers would like to really know is how exactly is the complete SharePoint object model structured, so that they can go and refer the SharePoint objects directly and do programming over it. So in the next video we're going to see the SharePoint object model, and then in the further coming videos we'll try to see that how we can use the SharePoint object model to do better programming in SharePoint. Thank you very much.